Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with Arduino. Today we're going to be looking at starting a multi-part series where we create a more advanced alarm clock system. So what we have right here is the time and the date, what's going to be very necessary for the future alarm clock system. We're going to go over how you can create this on your Arduino LCD, some of the basic wiring diagrams and some code. Also, make sure to note that for the time it is constantly updating, so we're going to also go over how we can work with that. So without further ado, let's hop in. So the first thing you should know is obviously that this is the same wiring diagram setup. I will post the same picture. What you can do is also go over to my previous videos where I talk about the Arduino LCD if you are interested in learning how you can set this up without these effects, and maybe you want to explore some of my other LCD videos where I talk about some of the basic display options and some other cool tricks. So now let's look at the wiring diagram and the code. Okay, so what we have here is the wiring diagram. This is the same thing that we went over for the previous videos. Make sure to note this area right here. What I like to do is have this module at the bridge so that this would be translated to over here. These dots would be translated to over here, and then that dot would be translated to over there. And likewise, this wire would have to stay in this row, and then these two wires would stay in this row. That's just something I like to point out every video. Now let's actually look at the code. Okay, so now let's look into the code. Before I preface this, I want to just say you must download this library. In order for the Arduino or the code to work, you need to download this library, which I will be showing you how to do right now. So you saw that I went to Tools, and then I will scroll down to Manage Libraries, and soon it will bring up a list of libraries that I can search up and sort through so that you can run this code as necessary. So before we start this, I just wanted to say that here are some of the basics with the LCD. We have the pins connected, the LCD begin. You can find all of that information in my previous video. But basically what that does is it allows the Arduino to communicate with the liquid crystal display and create 16 columns and 2 rows. So now I searched up time. Hopefully it'll load. Okay, so now what we have here are the list of libraries, I guess, that deals with time. What we want to do is scroll all the way down. It's going to, hopefully you can find this S right here. So if we come up, we can see the T range. I'll show you where I got mine so that it's easier for you to see. So the library is just called time. Thank you, the S range. And what this will allow you to do is use certain functions and values that will be necessary. Almost there. But yes, right here, this is the time library. Make sure to install this and your code should work. I'm just going to skip through this part. This is just waiting for the message. This is the loading. Here we have a delay of 1,000, so that's 1 second. Obviously, we're going to be updating every second. So now this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. If we come over here, we see this conditional if time status is not equal to time not set. So time status is basically kind of the timer, the internal timer that the Arduino knows and it's keeping track of. So this is the actual timer. This is the correct thing. Time not set is basically what we use to kind of, let's say, check. So what this is saying is if the internal timer does not match the time displayed on screen, what we want to do is call this function. So this is basically just saying if the time is not accurate on screen, let's just update it. So this is kind of why you're getting the updating in real time. That's why the Arduino is changing every second, because it's checking if the time that's currently on screen is accurate, and if it's not, update it. Or what we like to do is call this function. So we see this digital clock display, and we scroll down, we see the same thing. This is called a function or a method. And you can see right here, this is the return type. Void means it's not going to return anything. Int, double string, those are return types that the function will return as a value. So void says this is not going to return anything, and we're just going to print or display some of the values. So you can see the code is kind of redundant. This is just LCD display, serial. What it's just saying is we want to just show the values. Obviously, we start off with hour going to minute and second. But what is interesting to notice here is that this is print digits. This is not serial or LCD. This is a different thing. And if you look back over here, it follows a similar format. So that must mean that's another function. And likewise, we find it right here. This is a void as well. What you want to note is that it's also followed by the print semicolon. We want a semicolon to follow it. And also note that if the digits are less than 10, we print a 0. So basically this, in short, it allows the Arduino to print it. This is the time, the hours, minutes, and seconds. And then this one goes down to the second line, being able to show the date. And this is all based off of the value that you input in the serial monitor, which I will go over in the next clip. But essentially, that's just the basics of it. If the internal timer does not match the time that's on screen, just update it using this function. And that brings into perspective a whole another topic of functions. As you can see, this code is a lot more organized. You can see here, oh, what if there's a issue with, let's say, this function, I can go down here to see this function. And it makes things a lot more organized. You can envision everything and manage everything a lot better and detect errors. So that's just the basis of it. I'm going to go over an example, and then we'll see how this function works. Okay, so now let's test it out and look at this function. So the first thing you obviously want to do, press upload. I'm not going to save my sketch, but what you can do is you can save that, give it a name. So it says it's uploading now. And what we want to do is, if you look at your screen right now on the LCD, it should say loading. Then if you did that, then that means everything else is correct. We want to go to serial monitor. And right here, it's going to say waiting for sync message. So what that means is it's kind of waiting for a value it can use in seconds to output your date, right? Wait, let me open the serial monitor back up. So in order to do that, we come over to this website. So it basically converts human readable data to epoch. And that just means something that the computer can understand. You can see the timestamp in milliseconds over here, but essentially what this allows you to do is it converts it to seconds so the computer can calculate and make sure that it's using the right data values. So right now it's 11:34 and the date is 6/19/2023. And I want to convert that to a timestamp that the computer can understand. So let's copy this epoch timestamp, come back to the serial monitor. And it's very important that you start the input with a T, and I'll explain why in a minute, and then followed by your message. And if everything's right, you just start seeing your values over here, and on your LCD, it should display the accurate information. And that basically allows you to keep track. One thing I want to note is that when it's changing, if you remove the Arduino LCD or you shut down your computer or any reason at all, the time will not save. So you need to keep the Arduino on if you want to keep it counting the time. Okay, so now let's look at the code. And so basically what this is doing is basically just being able to manipulate and understand what data you've inputted as that epoch timestamp. So serial.find, what we want to do is convert that input to a into a integer. This is very important. Parse int basically allows you to cast since the computer reads your input as a string, we want to tell the computer that it's actually an integer or a number. This is also super important if serial.find time header. That's why I told you it's so important to find the T. It checks if there's a T at the start, and if there is, then it will go through this loop. And if not, then it will not continue with the code. So right here is also super important. It makes sure that your time is accurate. So you're not just inputting some random number into the serial monitor. It makes sure that it's actually a valid timestamp. Right? It says the default value is greater than January 1st, 2013, right? Since we're in 2023, almost 10 years later, it needs to make sure that you're not putting in some other value before 2013 when the date is actually 2023. So that, and since it counts seconds, that would make sense that the time you input would be greater than default time because there's more seconds that have passed in 2023 compared to 2013. So that's what checks to make sure that your data value is valid and it can convert it to an actual date. So here is the set time function that can be found in the time header in the timelib library. You can see that the time header is T that they established at the beginning. So that's basically what allows them to check for T. The timelib library is right here, and it allows the Arduino to understand this time and convert it as necessary. So that's what it's doing. All this is saying is checking if the time is valid and if it has a T, and if so, we want to convert that value into a time or a date that can be displayed on the Arduino liquid crystal display. Well, that's going to be it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed. I'll link all the code and all the websites we went over in the description or the comments below. We're going to be using the information and stuff we gained from here to create an advanced alarm clock system, so definitely stay tuned for that. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed and learned something, maybe something about functions, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.